Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video I wanted to keep talking about object-oriented programming essentials, and here we will talk about exception handling and garbage collection, just in simple terms. So exception handling is an event that disrupts normal program flow, typically due to an error or unexpected condition, like trying to read a file that doesn't exist. We'll throw a file not found exception, and Java groups exceptions into checked or unchecked. Like checked means like something must be handled or declared, or unchecked can be like runtime exceptions or errors that don't require explicit handling, like null pointer exception. ASCII method means a method can throw a checked exception. For example, a method might throw an IO exception, input output exception. To call such a method safely, you have two options. You can handle the exception with a try catch in this example, or declare that your method throws the exception and let it propagate. The typical way to handle this in many programming languages, you have try, catch, and finally methods. The try will be calling the risky method like here, and we will try to catch some exceptions as an A, and we will have another line or function to handle the exception. Here we are just saying, oh, another error occurred, but you can also put something different. You can try another method. And finally, we have an optional finally that will execute whatever happens. It will finally happen. Here, invoke the risky operation in the catch the specific exception. And finally, if present, runs whether or not an exception occurs. And in this example, we are using another method to method that might throw file not found exception. Here we are basically saying, okay, we are going to read data.txt file, but it might not be in the repository, or it might not be accessible by your program. And in that case, it will just say file not found. And this ensures the program doesn't crash, and we catch exception and handle it gracefully. Here we have propagating exceptions or declaring them. If your program should not or cannot handle a certain exception, you can let it propagate by declaring it. This means adding throws exception type clause to your method signature. And in this example, we have a method called void read data, and it throws file not found exception. And when you try to catch the, like in the previous example, file not found, this time it is just in the method declaration, and it will just declare me vthrow. So if you don't handle it, you can declare it. Eventually, if an exception goes uncaught all the way, the Java virtual machine will handle it by terminating the program and printing the stack trace. And declaring rather than catching is common when you want higher level logic to decide how to handle errors, or when writing library code. And object lifetime and garbage collection. This is nice, I think. In Java, you don't explicitly delete objects. The garbage collector, or GC, automatically frees memory for objects that are no longer reachable. But what makes an object no longer reachable, you can ask. Or another also exam question is, what kills an object? There's two possibilities. The first way an object can become eligible for garbage collection, or maybe die, but depends how you call it. We have nullifying references, reassigning references, and out of scope cases. So nullifying reference meaning like setting an object reference variable to null that breaks link to the object. Like here we have a myClass class, which an object of object, and it's just calling new myClass object equals, and then we are calling the object, then we are saying, okay, this is null. And basically we are just killing it, and it is becoming eligible for the garbage collection. In the second possible case, assigning reference, if a reference variable that pointed to object A, let's say, is now assigned to point another object B, then object A loses that reference. For example, again, we have a class myClass, object obj. It's new myClass, which object points to the object 1. And if we get the object and create a new myClass object, which will be object 2, and the first object 1 we declared here is unreferenced, so it is just gone. And the third case, out of scope or island of isolation, when reference is a local variable, once method ends, that reference is gone. Any objects that it was referencing might become eligible for garbage collection if no other references exist. Also, there's a concept of island of isolation. If two or more objects reference each other, but nothing else references them, then they're all unreachable from the program roots and can be collected. For instance, object A has field pointing to object B, let's say, and B points back to A. If no external reference points to either A or B, they are isolated and eligible for garbage collection. But in all cases, an object dies for our purposes when it's no longer reachable by any active reference in the program. At that point, the garbage collector will eventually reclaim that object's memory. And other ways an object can stop existing include the program terminating, theoretically, calling system.gc, which is basically meaning, saying system to collect the garbage. In the exam, you can talk about nullifying, reassigning, and out of scope. And this was all for this video. It was short, just informing. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.